The way we're going to do that is we'll come back to our source material here. We'll actually create a copy of it and select our guy, rename this number 2, go ahead and apply that to him. But this time, and let's just take the jacket for example right now. But we'll come in to the jacket, and what we're going to do is we are going to apply a map instead of just a color. We're going to use a TPVarTexmap. And let's go ahead and just for the sake of example, we're going to use red here. Red for the first one, so even though the jacket appears, let's go ahead and we'll just make that match. And then the second guy, second set, going to be green, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to assign a TPVarTexmap. Make his color originally kind of a green color, very green. Adjust that. And then last but not least, the third suit set. Let's take his jacket. At first we'll just make his solid color match what we're going to use. And then we're going to assign the TPVarTexmap to him as well and make that blue the same. Okay, and so now what we have is 3 sets of materials, and they're all using a TPVarTexmap for the jackets. Now it's very important that you remember, anytime you use the TPVarTexmap, you want to expose the vertex color input for either geom instance or standard shape, and you want to connect that vertex color to the particle input. What happens here is this born particle, you can see in parentheses it says particle. That's actually outputting the particle ID, and so that's going to be a unique number. Only one particle in the scene will have that number. So it's a unique number, and it allows the vertex color to create a unique TPVarTexmap color for him. So now we'll go ahead and render. And we save that other viewport down here. We'll come back and look at that in a second. What we should see is some variation in some of the colors. And the blue's kind of hard to tell. It's hard to remember which color group is which. But we can definitely see when we compare here that we've got quite a bit more variation. You know what? Let's go ahead then, and we're going to come back into our source material. We're just going to modify these the hue variation values to be less so that we can more easily see which is which. Oops, not the saturation, but the hue. And this one. Okay. Okay, it's you can see that there's variation in these colors with the global illumination and the shading in these round bodies. It's not too apparent, but you can definitely tell within the greens we've got variation, within the blues variation, and the reds of course. So this is a way for us to create sets of materials that will be applied to any object that would use a multi-sub object. And remember that you're going to want to use the TP multi-sub object when you do that, so that TP can manage the assignment and variation to distribute them among the particles. And then of course within each of those multi-sub objects we have these sets of materials that we're going to use. And to get extra variation in those, you assign a TPVarTexmap. You're missing the TP, that box isn't long enough. And of course you can also insert bitmaps in this area in order to actually make color variations to bitmaps. So very handy. Okay, let's move on.